All right, guys. Well, good evening. It is Saturday, October 11th. This is not the video I would like to be making today. I was hoping to finish the Space Marine today and get that video out, but that will not be happening, unfortunately. It will be out tomorrow. But conveniently, I realized I forgot completely to do the recap of our Deth Wizards games this week, or game this week. So I'm going to do that in this episode. Not definitely not as exciting as the Space Marine video, but you know, sometimes the videos work out just how you plan, and sometimes they don't. So we'll do that to fill in the gap here, and then we will have the Space Marine tomorrow. So without any further ado, we'll get into Deth Wizards. Alrighty, so this week in our Deth Wizards campaign, we played missions 4 and 5, which are assault a noble villa and steal from an arcane college. And what we have been doing previously is splitting into two parties, and then we play the first mission of the week, and then I reset up the boards, and we play the second mission of the week. This week, though, I decided we'll do something a little bit different, and we merged the two missions, but they were played at the same time, but we still split into two parties, but the players got to have a discussion beforehand and figure out which party members are best suited for each of the missions. And so they basically sent one team to assault the noble village noble villa, and one team to steal from the arcane college. I think that added a little bit of strategy to it. And still, you still get the same amount of gameplay because I lengthened the game a little bit. Instead of playing 5 turns or 4 turns, whatever the normal is in Deth Wizards, we played 8 turns. So I thought it was a resounding success. People seemed like they had fun, and a couple of people actually told me they had fun. So, that's always useful. So the two boards that we had, as you can see here, one was a noble villa up on a hill, and with the players coming into the forest and assaulting the hill. And for the steal from an arcane college, so the story that I came up with behind this was that the villa had, one team was going to walk up to the villa, and one team was going to go through the dungeon under the villa to get into the villa, because actually this was not just a noble villa, but it was a wizard's villa. So stealing from an arcane professor, maybe, instead of an arcane college. So the team that went on the outside discovered that not only was it a wizard's villa, but there was in fact a wizard convention of sorts going on. And so 10 level 3 wizards came out of that villa, and the above ground team had to deal with that. Meanwhile, underground, there were a nice collection of wizards and warriors, but also a couple rogues thrown in there. And rogues they're glass cannons, but they have a couple tricks up their sleeve, as you might expect. For one, the first time somebody ends within 2 inches of them, they can teleport away, so they can avoid getting hit. And in addition, one of their rolls that they can make is, I believe, called Slice and Dice, and it gives them plus offensive dice, as well as crits being 3 damage instead of 2 damage. So they can get pretty spicy. They're easy to take down once you get to them, but if you don't get to them, they will slice and or dice. So the above ground people had more raw power they had to deal with. The underground people had less raw power, but they were also bottlenecked, as you can see in these pictures. They can't just bum rush their whole group straight through the dungeon because they can't all fit. So that was a challenge they had to figure out. The above ground team did very well. One of our players is playing a minion master, and she basically just sent her minions out in front of her as sort of a screen, and then she just started hurling negative bolts over their head, and ended up with the most kills of any player in the night. So that was pretty exciting. Another one of the above ground players is playing a War Reaper, and he has a Death Knight a Flesh Golem in his warband. And so him and the flesh golem just screamed up the board. And his idea was, well, there's all these wizards, and one of the things the wizards can roll is a fireball, and a fireball does damage to everybody around its target when it hits. So he just ran his War Reaper straight into the middle of all the wizards. They started hitting him with fireballs, and it cascaded the damage onto the other wizards. And sort of similar to rogues, they're not as glass cannony, but they're not tanks, obviously. So that splash damage from those fireballs going off did actually help them quite a bit. So they were able to clear the hill by the end of turn 4. Whereas the people underground had a little bit more of a challenge. So they have a couple ways they can teleport. So they teleport in to the first room to try to get behind some of the warriors. But then the warriors in the next room, along with a wizard and a rogue, start moving, and they bottleneck in the next hallway. And that basically happened all the way through the dungeon. Is they would get into a room, but then the hallway leading out of that room was bottlenecked by the next group of enemies. So it was a little bit slower going. They took a decent amount of damage, a couple of well-placed slices and dices, got a couple people, but they managed it. I believe at the end, when they cleared the last enemy out, I believe it was turn 6. So they did pretty well. They weren't hard up against the clock, but they were closer than the outside team was. I also had put in two different ways to win the game. Deth Wizards, at least so far, I haven't read all the missions because I don't want to spoil myself on them. But so far, all the missions, the only way you win is by killing all the heroes, which is fine. Deth Wizards is not meant to be this super complicated, over-the-top game. A simple victory condition like that works out just fine. But I like to throw in a secondary option, just in case. I'm not tweaking the number of models or the number of enemies they're facing, but I'm not rolling the dice either. I'm just setting it at the middle. So for example, in this mission, it was 1d3 plus 1 wizards per player. So I just don't roll the d3. I just make it 2. And so, I never am 100% sure if the challenge is going to be too great. And so I like to put a secondary option in there for how you can win without necessarily killing everybody. And so for the above ground team, it was to have the only model up on top of the hill be a necromancer. And that's actually how they ended up winning. There were a couple warriors down off the hill that were still alive, but they captured the hill, and those warriors are like, you know what? We're gonna go back home, live to fight another day. And so that's actually how the above ground team won. The underground team, their other way to win was by searching the little, like, the barrels and the crates and stuff in the dungeon. And if you look at this board, you'll see the red dice scattered around. Those are the things they could search. And so at the end of the game, if they had hit the time limit and they hadn't killed everybody, they would roll all the red dice that they had collected. And on a 6, if they got a 6 on any one of the dice, they found what they're looking for in the steal from the Arcane College mission. And so they still won. As it turned out, they didn't need to do that. Like I said, they eliminated all the enemies on turn 6. But I just think it's nice to have a little secondary objective in there just in case something goes terribly wrong and, I've put too many miniatures on the board, or especially since I'm changing the terrain also. Like, I'm changing the terrain vastly, especially for the steal from the Arcane College. It's meant to be on a 22 by 30 board, and they were playing on a 16-inch by 45-inch board. So, that's quite a bit more distance to move and the bottlenecks and all that. So I always like to throw a secondary in there if I can. But overall, the week went great. They got a bunch of XP. They got both these missions. We play all the missions on Advanced. And both these missions, if you played on Advanced, come with a free impedimenta choice for your lair. So that was cool. They went from just 1 impedimenta before, and now all the way up to 4. So some people have even improved their lair to the advanced version, I believe. So yeah, it was a great week overall. Really enjoyed the missions. Really enjoyed the couple changes that I made that I think worked out pretty well. And so 2 weeks from now, we are on to missions. What are we on? 6 and 7, which will be pillage a lord's castle and steal an ancient artifact. Which thankfully, those two are very easy to combine. The ancient artifact you're trying to steal, it's inside the lord's castle. Yeehaw. So we'll have to see exactly what the terrain is going to look like and how we're going to do that. But should be pretty exciting. I cannot wait to get into it. All right. Well, I might have rambled a little bit longer than I necessarily should have, but that's okay. I'm pretty excited about this whole Deth Wizards campaign, so I tend to ramble a little bit when I talk about it. But hopefully, at least some people enjoy it. If not, that's okay. I know it's not the most exciting video in the world. Hopefully, those people will stick around for like the painting videos and stuff. But regardless, thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I would encourage you to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see the Space Marine video I keep promising and not delivering. And I will see you tomorrow.